I love how y'all have selective hearing. I said I'm hearing if they don't give us what we want, we sitting out. And that's the truth. Good.
This is the same person that literally said she didn't know what her WNBA salary was and that it didn't even cover her rent. Angel Reese makes at least $5 million.
It's crazy how some athletes just can't seem to grasp reality. Take Angel Reese, for example. This is the same player who didn't even know her WNBA salary and admitted that it didn't cover her rent. Now, she's demanding NBA-level pay, despite not even being close to playing at that level. Reese, who makes around $5 million a year, recently stirred the pot by making one of the most outrageous demands in WNBA history. She's been struggling with basic shots, missing layups, turning over the ball, and even picking unnecessary fights with opponents. And yet, she thinks she deserves the kind of pay that NBA stars get.
I'm hearing they don't give us, if y'all don't give us what we want, we sit out.
That's a possibility.
I guarantee you, the intelligent folks, and there are plenty in the WNBA, are saying, will you two idiots just shut up? Sit out.
Girl, y'all benefited from everything. Y'all youngins benefited from NIL.
What does that mean? We deserve more.
She's openly hinted at a potential lockout if the league doesn't meet her demands. She's basically saying, if we don't get what we want, we'll sit out. Well, here's a reality check. That's not how negotiations work, and frankly, it's making things worse for the WNBA. People are getting fed up. Let's break this down. Angel Reese and other players have benefited from nil deals, but this constant cry for more money just feels like entitlement. It's not about working harder on the court, it's about chasing headlines. And quite honestly, Reese's game has been far from elite. If you're going to demand more money, you should at least be playing at an elite level, right? But that's simply not the case. Her field goal percentage is abysmal. You can't expect to be taken seriously when you're shooting in the low 30s and struggling with easy shots. Worse yet, she's the worst in the league at shooting within 5 feet from the rim. Even her fans have started to notice that she's padding her rebounding stats by missing her own shots and grabbing the rebound instead of showing real skill. It's not elite play, it's just numbers manipulation.
That's 40, 50 million. You know who would clap for you all sitting out? The NBA. So they don't have to subsidize your dumbasses to the tune of 40 to 50 million.
Then there's the drama. Reese has made a name for herself off the court, taunting players like Caitlin Clark and creating unnecessary tension. She's been stirring up more controversy than actual basketball success. Instead of letting her skills speak for themselves, she's leaning into drama. And that's simply not the way to grow the game or get more respect. Here's the truth, Angel Reese may think she's the reason the WNBA is growing, but that couldn't be further from the reality. The league's rise is due to many factors, and while Reese might have been a part of it, she certainly isn't the main reason. Her taunting, drama, and focus on becoming a headline maker aren't doing her any favors.
Lockout! If y'all don't give us what we want, we sitting out. This is why sometimes you probably should have somebody look over a podcast. She's threatening to go on strike. I actually understand it's the way negotiations work in the CBA. Not on.
The WNBA needs athletes who focus on their craft, players who elevate the game with their skill, not with controversies or unrealistic demands. If Angel Reese wants to be taken seriously, she needs to focus on improving her performance on the court, not just making noise off of it.
Reese wants credit. The reason why WNBA is up is because of Angel Reese. She's not getting enough credit. She did this too. She taunted Caitlin Clark. She made this whole...
Angel Reese seems to think her rise to fame means she deserves a bigger paycheck, but let's be clear, her notoriety largely stems from her rivalry with Caitlin Clark. After winning the national title, the first thing she did was mock Clark. Instead of celebrating with her teammates, she made it personal. She's played off that drama ever since, but let's get something straight, Angel Reese is not the reason the WNBA is growing. The league's surge in popularity has far more to do with Caitlin Clark than it does with Reese. The numbers back that up. Clark's games bring in sold-out arenas, skyrocketing TV ratings, and ticket prices that triple. When Clark isn't playing, attendance drops, and interest fades. On the other hand, Reese hasn't moved the needle one bit.
Her notoriety is based off Caitlin Clark. Because she wins the national title, first thing she does, she mocks Caitlin Clark. And then she doesn't even celebrate with her teammates. So she's made it personal with Caitlin Clark. Then she's played off.
Yet, Reese still has the audacity to act like she's on Clark's level in terms of growing the league. That's not confidence, it's delusion. If I were an NBA owner, I'd be looking at my investments carefully, especially when someone's talking about locking out and wasting money. Sure, I'd miss watching Caitlin Clark and the Fever, but I wouldn't miss Reese's antics. Now, Reese is pushing even further with her sense of entitlement by threatening a lockout if the WNBA doesn't pay her more. But honestly, why should the league invest more money in a player who hasn't proven she can dominate? Why should owners throw cash at someone who isn't even a top player at her position? Reese seems to think social media hype equals worth, but that's simply not the case. Hype doesn't translate to value in basketball or business. If Angel Reese entered the league without Caitlin Clark, no one would know who she is. If she really wants to get paid more, she needs to improve her game. Focus on winning matchups, playing smarter basketball, and making herself indispensable on the court. Complaining about salaries and stirring up drama won't get her anywhere.
Isn't she shooting like 35% from the field? Can somebody tell me who in the world watches a 35% shooter from the paint that is basically grabbing her own rebounds from her own?
Let's face it, if Reese and players like Dijon Carrington actually sat out, the WNBA wouldn't miss them. The league would probably be better off without the drama. The truth is, the WNBA will continue growing with or without Reese, because the real star power lies with Caitlin Clark and a few other elite talents. Reese is acting like she's a major force in the league, but the reality is, she's just another player who talked a big game but couldn't back it up on the court. If we're being honest, 90% of the renewed interest in the WNBA is because of Caitlin Clark.
I'm an NBA owner. I didn't get rich by wasting a couple million on something that has no chance of making money. These two, sit out. See what happens. Now, I would miss watching the Fever. I would miss watching Caitlin Clark, but I wouldn't miss anything.
Reese and Carrington seem to think the WNBA is making billions, but let's get real, the league is still surviving off the NBA's financial backing, with the NBA pumping in $40 to $50 million annually to keep the lights on. The WNBA is still losing money year after year. If I were funding the WNBA, I'd focus on what actually drives growth, personalities, yes, but also players who bring serious talent to the table. Angel Reese may have a personality, but it's one that's based more on ignorance than substance. That's where she's exposing her own lack of understanding.
Know who Dijon Carrington was, her sidekick, or no one would know.
She even recently went on a podcast complaining about future rookies making more than her due to the next collective bargaining agreement. She acted like this was some massive injustice, completely ignoring the simple fact that salary increases are a normal part of professional sports. Every league sees this kind of growth over time. At the end of the day, if Angel Reese really wants to transcend the game, she needs to focus on her performance, not her drama.
No, the WNBA don't pay my bills at all. I don't even think that pays one of my bills. I'm gonna do the math real quick.
It might cover that. Yeah, it definitely covers that.
What is I don't even know my...
Angel Reese seems to believe she deserves a bigger paycheck simply because she's loud and controversial, but the reality is, she's missing the mark. Instead of focusing on improving her game to secure a future contract, she's out here complaining about hypothetical paychecks that haven't even materialized. Reese recently stated, "I will continue to use my voice to speak for what we want and deserve as a league." But here's the problem, what she said wasn't about the league or the bigger picture. She made it all about her, claiming she deserves more money while others get paid more. That's not standing up for the league, that's just entitlement.
If you really want to go into business, you need to pay some money back. You made absolutely nothing. You haven't really enhanced the league. Caitlin Clark has.
We have to be completely honest about this, whether we like it or not. 90% of this revived or renewed interest is really based around one singular...
Let's tackle the myth Reese keeps pushing, that she's responsible for the WNBA's growth. Newsflash, she's not. Caitlin Clark is the reason why people are tuning into women's basketball right now. Reese is not the reason for the league's rise. Caitlin Clark is a generational talent who has completely changed the game. Every spike in WNBA viewership and attendance this season can be traced back to Clark. Games featuring the Indiana Fever are selling out across the country, not because of Reese, but because Clark is drawing fans in with her unique talent. Meanwhile, Reese's games have nowhere near the same demand. Fans aren't lining up to watch her miss layups or start unnecessary fights. The truth is, the WNBA is being carried by a few marketable superstars, and Reese isn't one of them.
Funding this league, I'd say, all right, hold on. You got a golden goose. We all got one in Caitlin Clark. These people that are criticizing Caitlin Clark, these people that are hitting Caitlin Clark, these people that are talking as if they are as important as Caitlin Clark are hurting our opportunity.
Here's the issue. Reese seems to believe this is her time to shine, and that the WNBA owes her a payday just because she's loud. But sports salaries aren't based on noise, they're based on value. If the WNBA were a billion-dollar business, sure, players could negotiate for bigger contracts. But that's not the reality. The WNBA is still financially struggling and Reese isn't even close to being a top player. Let's be honest, if Dijon Carrington didn't try to take on Caitlin Clark in that game, Nobody would even know who she is, and the same goes for Reese. It's the drama, not the game, that's drawing attention. But even with all the drama, these two players are acting like the WNBA owes them money.
Want to grow the game? All right, grow the game. All I'm saying is if you want to play in the big leagues, if you want to be somebody that transcends the game, you got to have a personality. I will give Angel Reese this. She has a personality. It's ignorance. It's stupid. I mean, it's really...
Be real, if Reese and Carrington actually decided to sit out, the league probably wouldn't even miss them. In fact, it might even be better off without the drama and unnecessary distractions. Reese's attitude and sense of entitlement are putting her in a terrible position. She thinks she's forcing the WNBA's hand into giving her a massive pay raise, but all she's really doing is showing how little she understands the business of sports. If Reese and her peers follow through with their threats to sit out, the WNBA won't crumble, it might actually thrive without them. The harsh truth is, Angel Reese is replaceable. She's not an MVP-level player. She's not a dominant scorer. She's not even consistent on the court. She's an inefficient shooter who struggles at finishing around the rim and thrives on controversy rather than talent. And let's not forget Reese's growing presence outside of basketball. She's becoming more of a content creator than an athlete. It's clear that basketball is no longer her top priority. If it were, we might see better shooting percentages and fewer missed layups. Instead, she's spending time taking pictures and promoting things unrelated to the game. If she really wants to improve, focusing on basketball should be her #1 goal.
Continue to use my voice to speak for what we want and deserve as a league. Thank you. No, that's not what you did. You said me, I. They're going to get more than us. I deserve more.
Carrington made a huge scene on their podcast, boldly claiming, if you don't give us what we want, we're sitting out. But the real question is, who would even care? This isn't the NBA, where a superstar sitting out would send shockwaves through the league. In the WNBA, players like Reese taking a break would barely register. In fact, WNBA owners might actually welcome it. The league is already struggling financially, and with players demanding more money than the league can support, their absence might actually help keep things afloat. It's time for the WNBA to focus on real stars like Caitlin Clark, who are bringing in record numbers and driving interest in the league. Investing in players who are elevating the game makes far more sense than wasting money on players who can't even back up their demands with strong performances on the court.
A suggestion for you, don't sit out. You have a real opportunity right now. The only time, think about it, baseball is going to go away on ESPN. ESPN is pushing women's sports like never before. Instead of having every single person with a reasonable mind say, look, morons, nobody's going to miss you. This is your time. Take advantage.